Thanks for coming, everyone. As Mark said, I'm Pat Hyde, Director of Public Works, and today just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of how things are going with the winter season, and we're soon approaching, if not quickly approaching, depending on how things hold up the spring season. As everyone has probably seen in the forecast, weather temperatures have warmed up over the past week, and we're looking like we're going to be in plus temperatures for at least the next week and maybe a little longer after that. So as a result, it changes a little bit of the dynamic in terms of what we do on the roads and how we address the winter situation. As I've spoken before in different media scrums and through PSAs and the website, etc., that we were not going to do a citywide residential area grading, unless we hit the threshold of 6 inches for the snowpack on roadways. We have done a measurement of 30 different locations across the city, both sides of the city, and the average snowpack that we're getting is roughly about 4 inches. Now, having said that, excuse me, there are some locations there where the ruts are causing issues that we are aware of, and we have been addressing those issues, problematic issues as they arise and as they're reported and as we discover them as well. But what we're doing right now, we're moving into a phase starting today where we're going to tackle some of the neighborhoods that we know that are causing, or not causing, but are having problems with the ruts. And even though not all of those are at a 6-inch threshold, we know that right now at this point in time of the season, as the temperatures start to change and the snow melts and the weather warms up, the snow starts to also puff up and those ruts can become deeper, more problematic. So we're addressing those on a more of a kind of a snow event style where we're going to go into the neighborhoods and we're going to clear the problem areas on those streets and take down the ruts. Now, it doesn't mean every single street will be done. It'll be done by basically the ones that are needed to be done. We have staff that are out scouting ahead of the graders, ensuring that the streets that need attention will be addressed so that we can get through those neighborhoods as quickly as we can and progress to the next neighborhood as time will permit. The citywide residential snow grading program that we talked about, we're not at that point right now. In fact, we're getting a lot of calls as well from residents asking us not to grade their streets because their streets are leveling fine. And as the snow does melt through warmer temperatures, it melts at basically a gradual rate across the roadway and doesn't create the same problematic issue where ruts already exist. And what the problem is we know that when we do a grading, that we create windrows. And windrows has an impact on the on-street parking. It takes away the on-street parking because snow has to be stored somewhere. We try to leave as much parking space on the streets as we can. But that's not always possible, and as well with the narrow streets in some of the core neighborhoods, the on-street parking diminishes that much quicker, and also what happens is the roadway pathway narrows as we create windrows in areas that we have to store the snow. Some of the streets that we know, we will also do a load out of the windrows as we create them, where there is no storage option, if there's no boulevard space, median space. In some of these core neighborhoods where the streets are narrow to start with, we'll have to do some windrow load out as we did last season as well. So similar to that approach. Moving forward, excuse me, unless we get more snow between now and spring melt, which is entirely possible. It is only March 6th. We could get a significant amount of snow, depends on what Mother Nature throws at us. Or we could be in a melting phase here where we're into a gradual spring approach. If we don't get any more snow, then we don't see right at this point in time that there will be a need to get into the area residential clearing to grade those streets in order to take down the snowpack because it will melt at a gradual rate. And as we saw as an experience in January when we had that 2 weeks of warm temperature, the snowpack diminished in many areas as much as 50 to 70%, and in lots of areas we had the asphalt exposed. So on top of that snowpack base that diminished over January, then with the snow we had in February, the snowpack isn't quite at the same extent that it could have been if we didn't have that 2 weeks in January of melting. So that's helped out across the board. There's no question in that regard. Also, I know there's some questions about what we've been doing for loadouts as well. We've been working on the priority streets for the last few weeks, and we'll continue to do so as well. Because of the snow we had in February, we had a significant amount of snow. The windrows on the priority streets are pretty much at capacity. So we've been loading out the priority 1 streets, and we're also on priority 2 streets and some of the priority 3 streets as well. At this point, priority 1's about 75% complete, priority 2's at 60%, and the priority 3's at about 25% complete, and that's on the windrow removal. And one of the reasons we want to do that, as well as I mentioned earlier, we're still only at March 6th, so we could get more snow, so we have to make room for capacity in case we do have another generous amount of snow that we have to move off the streets. As well, it helps in terms of the pothole situation. The less standing water we have on those heavily traveled streets also diminishes the amount of potholes that can materialize. It doesn't take it away completely, but it does help. The less standing water we can have on the roadway, it helps in that regard. Potholes, when they form, they increase very quickly based on the amount of traffic that's on those roadways. Of course, in the standing water, as a car goes over top of a pothole, it creates a pressure wave in that water, which washes away and erodes the sides of the potholes, as well as the tire and the weight of the vehicle. Also diminishes the size of the pothole, the sides of the pothole, and increases the size very quickly. So the more water we can remove the standing water off the streets, the better it is for the pothole situation as well. To date, as of I believe it's early this week, I think we've taken about 10,200 tandem truckloads of snow off those priority streets, and we'll continue to do so right through the month of March till we hit the spring melt, or we finish, depending which comes first here. The area, what I do want to mention here, sorry, is when we're doing these neighborhoods on the rut grading, we're going through on as I said, a snow event style. So the area won't be posted with the yellow sandwich boards that we've all been familiar with, and we won't be doing parking enforcement. We'll be going around parked cars as need be. The areas of streets that we know we're going to have to do a load out because there is no place to store the snow, those are the streets that we will post for signage and do parking enforcement, so we can get a curb-to-curb clean out and load the snow at the same time. So those ones, look for those streets. If you see the parking signs up, the no parking signs, then heed the advice of the signs, and we'll put those up and give the proper notification ahead of time, 36 hours minimum notice, so that you're well aware that if we're coming down that street to do grading, that we need to get your cars off the street. In terms of the meltwater situation, temperatures right now are gradually increasing and warming up, and we're not seeing a highs of major temperature shifts. And through that, the meltwater capacity will be nothing out of the ordinary. The storm drain system, catch basins. What we had this winter is we had a good snow cover at the early start of the season before the really cold temperatures set in, and that helps us in a great regard in terms of keeping the catch basins clear. The more snow cover that comes at the early part of the season, kind of acts like an insulated blanket cover and helps those catch basins from freezing deep. And when the meltwater goes through it, we don't have the same ponding effect. That doesn't mean we won't have ponding effects at some of the catch basins, because that always will happen, but it'll help to minimize that total melt as we see the spring melt happen. And of course, the more gradual the melt happens, the better off it is for the system itself and for also standing water on the streets. If you do see catch basins that are ponding and flooding with water around the area, then give our customer service center a call, and we'll address those situations. It may just require a quick steam clean of the system to clear that ice blockage and get that water running. The water main break situation, I know there's been a lot of curiosity about what's been happening. The the frost depth level right now is basically at normal levels, which is about 5 to 6 feet. Last year we had a very severe frost level where it was down to 9 feet in some cases. In many cases it was below the water line in terms of the pipes, which is abnormal. But that wasn't unique to Saskatoon. That was experienced right across the prairies. And as a result of that, the water main break situation last year was quite problematic. So as an example of that, this year in 2015 to date, we've experienced 36 breaks. At this same point in time last year, we had 107 breaks. And the year before, in 13, we had, I believe it's 64 breaks. Actually, I have it written down. Sitting going by memory, I cannot tell you. 74 breaks. And in 2012, we're at the same level as this year, 36 breaks. So we're back at normal levels in terms of breaks, so we're not seeing the same ground shift and the same problems. It doesn't mean that we won't experience more as the spring melt season happens. We always have that. But right now, we're not at any abnormal activity in terms of water main breaks. So that's a good sign, especially with folks that unfortunately get impacted when a water main does happen on their residence or their business or locations. So. Other than that, potholes, yes, potholes. Through the course of the winter, when the weather conditions allow, we use a cold mix material to patch potholes. The potholes that have been materializing haven't been too bad. Actually, they've been pretty good this season. Even with the 2 weeks of warm weather we had in January, they didn't create anything out of the ordinary in that sense. We've used about 40 tons of pothole material, cold mix material, which is actually a little less than we've used in other years, so we're not having the big experience of potholes, but it all depends on what kind of a spring season we get. The faster the melt, the more problematic potholes will occur, but we're not controlling that, but we'll be ready to address that. The hot asphalt material typically isn't ready until temperatures are conducive for the manufacturing plants to produce that. And typically, it's usually around the end of April, early May that those are ready to go. And once that happens, then we'll be into the full spring pothole blitz mode. But until then, we'll address potholes as need be and as we're able to in terms of as they materialize and we have the material to cover those.